What is going on, everybody? It's
Yes.
Monday,
Welcome.
middle of
Monday
August,
Madness.
dog days of summer. All right, so how long, bro? How long until FIBA real games start? Because we've been watching friendly matches between everybody, man, everybody. So when do they start mattering? Is it like
20 something. 20 something, man.
so?
What's
We'll
up, Cody?
say 10 days away.
Yeah, man, we're getting close. I mean, we're
Getting
getting really
close.
close. How do you did you see anything about Josh Giddey's game
Just
this
that our
morning?
brother texted us and said should have checked it out.
George, Jared. It's so
What's up,
early in the
guys?
morning. You know what I'm saying? So like for me, it's so hard to get up and get going to watch a game like that. Especially a non like big game. And I say that with all due respect, but from what I saw and what everybody's been saying is Josh had a near triple double, 14 points, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds. So,
I'm ready to check out
or
those highlights. That's how I've been watching
10
these friendly
rebounds,
games.
8 assists, whatever it is. But the point
Some
is,
people would say that's how I watch every game, highlights only.
I look at it though, and it's exactly what we've been saying is that they're going to be
What
using
up,
Josh
guys?
into this you know, role that he is in Oklahoma City. You're going to see similar numbers there. It's going to be nice. I'm excited about Australia.
I'm excited. George, you say the highlights were very good.
Man, if you have a link, George, throw a link up here, and we'll make sure that everybody can watch it. If you don't worry about it. We'll find it later.
I love
But
that. I
man,
love
I'm stoked, dude. I'm stoked for this FIBA. Usually, it's not this exciting. Usually it's kind of like, oh well, we'll have one or two players, but
Is this the future, bro? Is this how it's going to be every year from Oklahoma City's perspective?
oh yeah, I mean because Sam's not going to stop just um um
Getting
bringing
international
players.
talent?
Yeah, bringing players from different places
You
across
know,
the world.
it's
So
like everybody who is an investor and stuff, they always want to find where there's like unrecognized value. So from Presti's perspective, finding places where there's untapped talent, right? That's how
sure,
you end up with a player like Jokic or like Giannis. You didn't go to the normal Duke, North Carolina, Kansas schools. You have to go find other places. So I'd say we're going to be chock full of international talent until international talent is overvalued, and
yeah,
then it's back to people are undervaluing the college system, which it's a copycat league. So I could see that happening at some point, but
sure.
right now it doesn't seem like it's anywhere close to that happening because the below average teams still get their most of their players from college.
Sure. I mean, I look at this and I see the beautiful mix of college basketball players that are on our team, guys that went to the college hoops, played in college hoops, maybe from different countries like Shea and Dort, but use the American system to go and mentor. And then you look at guys that are like Poku, who was pretty much an unknown player. I mean, there was a couple teams that had him on their list to get. I think Dallas is one of them. But you see these guys, and you're like, what could these young men turn into? And it's so cool that we have so many that are from different countries, like Usman
So
Jang,
I want to talk
Poku.
about Poku
Yeah,
because I definitely dig what you're saying, but like, okay, so Poku, a lot of people are getting like, is Sam Presti getting ready to be experiment? Now I remember
man, I don't think he's done.
when
I'm sorry.
Jokic first got to, I don't think so either, but like when Jokic first got to the Nuggets,
Yeah,
he was for sure like 2 years away from being 2 years away, as they like to say, and they had Nurkic
mm,
there, and Nurkic was like good enough for me to think Jokic might not get much playing time. And it
sure.
was like kind of like, where are they getting these bigs that they just are like from Europe that are just really good? And Jokic ended up obviously being a lot better than Nurkic.
Yeah,
But in the end, I look at it like, how long did it take for Jokic to actually demonstrate that he was a better player than Nurkic? It wasn't right away.
mm-mm.
It might have taken 3 years for the Nuggets to decide, okay, we're ready to trade Nurkic I think to the Blazers, right?
Yeah,
To make sure that Jokic gets his opportunity without any interruption.
sure.
But it wasn't like right away that he was obviously going to be a better player. To the fans who only watch the games, like I'm sure he was demonstrating in practice that Nurkic better look out.
Sure.
But um, yeah, Nurkic was very good, and it seemed like so. I look at it with back to Poku, like you can't look at a player who came into the league as the youngest player in the league and be like, okay, we're about to give him up on him 3 years in. Like you don't know what you're going to get from this guy,
Yeah.
really, and you don't even get a glimpse until about 24.
I I I kind of agree with you on that, man. Like he's one of those guys that it's like a delayed gratification situation,
Right.
like no hands situation, you know what I'm saying? Um so for me, that's why I look at Poku is like even if it costs us, $10 million a year to keep him, I just have a hard time walking away from the Poku experience because I still go back to um when Poku got injured last year, right? And I wrote Poku's dad on social media, and I was just like, I appreciate what your son's doing. He's gonna be back. He'd be better than ever. He'd be stronger. Be ready to go. And this summer, man, everything I was seeing, I mean, he looked really good until he had his injury. And that's where I went back to is like, is this one of those situations where it's going to turn into one of those if Poku had stayed healthy, he could have been, right? But the reality is that that's where being in the right organization matters. Because in the beginning of the year, if Poku only gets 10, 12, 13 minutes a game as he's getting used to everything and as he's getting back in shape and everything, that's fine. Because he's coming up on his contract year and I'll be honest with you, there's going to be few teams that are going to be willing to roll the dice, to bring Poku on for 7 to $10 million a year. And with that being said, is that's why the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think it's crucial that we keep him because you're right, 24 is going to be his moment where we're like, okay, this is where his peak's going to be. But if you think about that, 24 puts him at what, 7 years in the league?
Right.
It's come on, man. The
Right.
guy's going to have so much experience. It's going to be filthy.
No, I looked it up. Like, as far as I can tell, Jokic, I misunderstood how quickly he was good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's see, by year 3, he was putting up 18 and 10, I think.
Yeah.
So
Year 3,
um
wasn't year 3 like right around the time that Russ just like put a dagger in his heart?
probably 17, 18.
Because I remember being in Denver around the time that he was like and living in Denver. I lived in Denver for 2 years, and that would
I
have
think
been
16, 17 was the year that Russ did that. And that
okay. So that would have
Jokic
been
put up
around his
16, 10, and 5,
yeah.
which I
All right.
mean,
So I
those
moved
are
to Denver
incredible
his
numbers.
rookie year then.
You got to look at a second-year player doing that. But so Poku's by no means on the same trajectory. But
No,
with
no,
that
no, no.
said, like George is saying, right before he went down, he looked amazing. I'm sorry, Jared said that. And he, that's what I want to say. Like, it's not about, it doesn't come down to, for me, um, like, was he following Jokic's trajectory?
Yeah.
Just if you look at his own trajectory
Yeah.
and you say, mid of or beginning of third year, he was a really integral part of the team. He played
Sure.
really well until injury. So then you extrapolate in 3 more years, where will
Sure.
he be?
Okay.
Like, and by then, he's still a year away from like really entering that early onset prime. Like, not even close to, like, he's still 3 years away
So
from entering traditional prime.
you're saying, and this is where I'm agreeing with you on this, is that we're set on our big men for the future. Because if you look at Chet, you look at Poku,
Hmm.
you look at J Will, you look at JRE. We've got some other guys that can switch to the big men if we need them to be. But our big men for the future are set. Because if we're going to keep Poku, you know what I'm saying? That puts us a nice round number for the big men, guaranteed to play that power forward center position and just run her around. Because
All right, and
I
I'll flip it back to you, bro.
all right.
Our guards are set too.
All right. You know what? Fuck all that, man. we had one of the guys in the comment section bring up something, and let's just bring it up.
Our team is set, bro.
All
We're
right,
not taking
let's
on
just
new
take this
talent.
away. Let's take away off our team. Let's take away out of our team right here. Let's do this. We're gonna flip some shit right here. Ready here? Let's take Shea off our team.
Okay.
Let's take J-Dub off our team.
All right.
Dort off our team. J-Dub off our team.
Giddy.
And Chet or Giddy. I'm sorry, in Giddy. Yeah.
Giddy and Chet.
Giddy and Chet.
You said J-Dub twice.
All right, J-Dub twice. All right. That hurts me twice as bad. All right.
All right. Drop the
starting five.
Starting five.
All right. Where are we at?
All right. So
let's take
let's go through the guys that we always mention as being our key bench players, which they're always about 7.
All right.
Right. So we go Kenny Hustle, Poku.
Yep.
We're talking about Jay Will.
I think you have to throw in
Isaiah Joe.
Yo.
You're talking about Andrew Wiggins.
Aaron
Wiggins every time.
Fuck you, Andrew.
I guess VO is in that group right now for now. You know, I don't know if he'll stick around, but who else, bro?
This is where it gets crazy. Ready for this, man?
Yeah.
All right. Mitchich.
There we go.
Trey Man.
Okay.
Usman Jang. Cason Wallace. Jack White. Okay, this is my point. Okay, we can't stop at just 7 because that's how deep we are. At this point, where we have all these players right now, and we've got to count them. So we have the players that we have. We got to look at this team, and we've got to say we're literally 15 deep. Because at this point, I like Victor Oladipo, but I couldn't put him in our top 6 bench players.
Okay, so explain to me the starting lineup of that group that you see.
All right, let's do it.
We got Poku and Jay Will.
Poku, Jay Will. All
so
right.
Poku is a great passer. He can knock down the 3. He can run out in transition. He blocks a lot of shots. And Jay Will leads the league in taking charges and can shoot about 40% from deep.
Point guard.
Mitchich, point guard. And we think he's going to have a great future. Maybe be the 6th man of the year kind of candidate.
Kenny Hustle. That's 4.
He's like running your 3 kind of.
And then I think you have to go Usman Jang, bro.
Usman Jang or Trey Man.
Usman Jang.
Or Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe's got to start that group.
But then you're looking at like Usman
off your
Jang
bench, you're Trey Man, Usman Jang, Wiggins, VO, Bertans. Now we're 10 deep.
But that's what we need to be.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Now, that was okay. So you take those guys away, and then you say, where do we stack up against the rest of the league? Now,
there we go. That's the next question.
First thing, we're not going to get a lot of wins. If that's our team,
we're going to be. Time out. Let's do this. Let's strip away the starters for the rest of the league, then.
No,
because that's where no. But let's look at it your way, and then let's look at it my way. But go ahead. What do we get for wins this year? We don't get many, right? We're probably at the 20 mark, 25,
15 to 20.
Yeah. All right. Strip away from the starters the rest of the league.
Okay.
Where are we at?
Who has the best bench?
We got to be the best bench. We got to be
other than
the most points.
Sorry, my bad. Somebody in the chat help Dave out. His head's about to explode. It does. I guess it doesn't really matter.
I gotta say Denver. I mean, I gotta say Denver is a pretty stealthy bench. I gotta say you got a pretty healthy bench over the Heat with Victor Oladipo coming off the bench.
No, he's on our bench.
Well, I mean, saying last year. I'm saying this was last year.
How deep are the Celtics? They're pretty deep. They have like.
All right. They got 8. Right. All right. So, but my point is that I don't think there's another bench that could play with us 10 deep like we have. There's just not. If another bench was playing against us, they'd be like 7 deep and not wanting to dip into the last 3.
So how does that affect us in a 7-game series?
In a 7-game series, the amount of guys that we can put out there for game 1, 2, 3, and 4 is going to be staggering. And what does that do for us? It allows our guys to be there for game, which is the wrap up games, 5, 6, and 7. Your 3
Man,
big games, bro.
so you're talking about managing minutes all the way through the playoffs.
I think the new NBA, you have to.
Hmm.
I think you have to. I think you have to recognize that your best chance of surviving long term with a bench like the Oklahoma City Thunder and the bench that we're going to see with some of these other teams. I think the Lakers have a decent bench, but I think that it's going to be interesting. I think you're going to have to be sitting here saying, can you go with playing your bench good minutes, going 10 deep 4 games into a series? I mean, is it going to inhibit your win total? Because here's the thing that I look at. You've got maybe 3 guys that are guaranteed going to in the playoff situation that are guaranteed going to get 35 plus minutes. Everybody else, it's mismatch or putting a player in that, it's a dice roll. That's what it
So
is.
this is the year, bro. This is the year where everything gets wild, huh?
It has to. I mean, like,
We're like bursting at the seams with talent. We have too
injury
much.
free, we're one of the best teams in the league from top to bottom.
Okay, but what we just described though is 15 deep. It almost seems like we can withstand several minor injuries and maybe even a significant injury.
I
Like,
mean,
you think about
yes,
the way that like the Memphis Grizzlies stepped up whenever Ja went down.
sure.
Like, I feel like this team has
All
the
right.
capacity to
Shea got injured last year, right?
um I remember he went down a couple times. Hit,
All right. He played
get it
68 games last year.
get his rookie year. He went down a couple of times.
So he played 68 games this year and 56 games last year. So let's just put this in perspective. If Shea plays 70 games, that means he misses 12, right?
Hmm.
If we have most of our majority of our players are going to get heavy minutes, they play that 70 game mark. Why not? It's healthy. I mean, sure, some of these guys might, slip up to the 75 mark, but still that's 7 games missed. That's where we need to be at. If this is the case and what we're able to do for this team, that means that these minutes and everybody's like, oh, that's too many minutes for these guys averaging for the bench players. Well, it's not. If they have to step up, 7 times to start that year, 10 times to start that year. So again, man, I don't know, dude. This year is going to be exciting, but I do think that we have a huge chance to win a serious amount of games because of the way that we're designed. We're not designed just as a defensive team. We're not just designed as an offensive team or a bench team. We have the starters that are filthy, and then we have the bench to support them. We got the defensive minded set to bring structure on the court, and our offensive mind quick ability to get up and down the court allows us to score and shoot a ton of shots. It creates issues, bro.
It's an uncommon thing, and it's one of those things where I look at. I'm like, when I was coaching, there were years where teams where I only had 6 players. Like you would be like running, and you'd have to call timeout because everybody was tired and nobody could play. If you fouled out one player, or God forbid 2 players, then you're out there with 4 players. Like I've I've been in those situations as a coach before, and I look at it and like, here's the polar opposite. You have 15 players who need to play,
Yeah.
and you're Coach Dignall.
Yeah.
I mean,
But here's the thing though. I want to look at this though, is that you've got your bottom 7 guys. What I'm gonna say bottom 7 guys. Like those guys are gonna be about 50 games played. It's gonna be about matchup, and then you're gonna have your top really 8 guys, 7 guys that are gonna be the floater guys that are gonna be playing your majority of your minutes. but there's going to be a wide open, spot to be an interpretation to what that is. And there might be some guys that play 55 games. But if you look at our bench and you look at the way that it was designed last year, it's that 50 game mark that you see that's highly, that I circle for some of these bench guys. And that's fine. They'll earn their spot if they do better. If they don't, then that's fine. They'll get passed up.
We weren't nearly as deep last year. So a lot of the depth comes from just getting healthy and the players adding a year more of experience. And then the fact that we're adding, two top 10 picks. That's actually quite a bit of things all at once. So it may not be like, well, where's all this happening? But I think the things are lining up, like George is saying, for us to get a bunch of blowout wins. And um, I can't think of many blowout wins we've had other than the ones that we'll say losses. We'll say blowout losses like the last few years.
Man, I love it because when George said that, it got me thinking. I'm like thinking in my brain, like, how many teams are seriously going to be in the blowout? We're going to be able to blow out this year. And if you look at it, San Antonio Spurs, Houston Rockets, Portland Trails Blazers, like these teams, like still defining what's going on. I don't think Utah is done. I think Utah wants to be bad for one more year.
I don't. I think they want to compete.
Okay, all right. So let's just say Utah wants to compete. All right. Then which of these teams are dropping into the bottom? Pelicans, Minnesota, Lakers, Golden State, Clippers, Phoenix, Sacramento, Memphis, or Denver? So
None of them.
this is where I think one of these teams are going to go straight up tank mode. If Dallas, let's just say Luka gets injured, right? Dallas will be in the tank mode. Pelicans, if they decide to get rid of one or two of their players, couldn't figure out with Zion. Peace out.
I don't know. They're really good without Zion. So I mean,
What
as
happens
long
to
as
Minnesota if Minnesota gets one or two injuries?
I could see that because they're such a clusterfuck, but I also look at them and it's like
Lakers.
I don't see that.
All right, and Golden State. See, these guys are all old. That's what I keep getting back to. Is that like I look at the Lakers old and a couple injuries away. Golden State old, couple injuries away. Minnesota couple injuries away when they're old. Pelicans semi old, couple injuries away. Dallas an injury away from sucking. So
There's probably a few players on that team that would make it so they'd start making excuses as a team. Like
my point with that being is that like, is there other teams that are going to go straight tank mode that we're going to be able to get a bunch of blowout wins because of them? If there's not,
what if like these teams aren't going tank mode and we still get blowout wins? Like maybe not against the Warriors, but like I don't really see Dallas's type of game plan competing with us in that.
Okay.
Like they've had trouble building. Like if
so you think even if it's that bottom half of the playoff run, the play-in group, you think that we're going to blow those guys out of the water?
Let me ask you a weird question, right?
All right.
So I've been watching like Luka's like highlights.
Yeah.
Once again, because I don't watch these fucking friendlies. All right, so it looks to me like for FIBA, his team is better than the Mavericks. Even though none of those
team,
because how to play with Luka. Like, here's my thing: if you have the best player in the world and you say a bunch of guys who want to do their own thing, or a group of players who really are focused on playing the best team, I'm like, maybe Lithuania would win more games than. I hope I said that's where he's from, right? I know I said that right, but yeah, maybe they would win more games than the Mavericks. Like that's what I'm wondering. Like, is it so far out of the question? I know that they're not as good, but if you can knock down threes,
no, that's Joker.
If you can knock down threes,
yeah,
then Luka's going to be better. Slovenia, thank you.
Slovenia, there we go. I knew I was
wrong. I think anyway, but like if you can spread the court if you can play all together and if you understand, like when you watch his highlights, it's like, wow, he looks like a god out there.
Sure.
But then it's like, is he also playing with people who understand how to space the floor better, who understand how to play with Luca better?
Okay. All right.
You guys tell us in the chat. Do you think that Luca would play better in the NBA with Slovenia and they'd win more games than the Mavericks?
I've been very careful with this because I said this once a long time ago on a podcast, and I can never tell you how many years ago it was, but I got trashed for saying it. I said that there was any European team that's the top level could be insert Chet or insert Luca into that team, and they would be instantaneously better than Dallas Mavericks. All right. And I'm serious because if you look at the way that these teams are designed and put together, they would morph around Luca. And that's the problem I see with Dallas is that they haven't had maybe a coach that understands how to use Luca in the proper way. But I've always felt like they've failed so badly at putting a team
Miserably.
around Luca every single time. And he's so good that he's going to get you 40 wins every single year just by playing. So it's not going to take much for them to find, oh, if we keep Jalen Brunson on a cheap salary and we keep this player on a cheap salary, and the next thing you know is we got a really good team here. But they fucked it up, bro. Like some things are just Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, and the Dallas Mavericks, man. Do I need to say anything else?
They're a year away from being a year away.
It's just embarrassing sometimes, man.
Well, the Mavericks, as soon as Luca proved that he was all NBA level from his rookie year, I was like, I hope to God that they can't figure out how to build around him properly. Because the
You
last
said
thing I
it. You
wanted to
said it
see,
best, dude. You said they have to trade him to start over again in order for them to ever be a chance to win a championship.
well,
And I was like,
here's
no, 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 no. But now I'm starting to believe you're right, bro.
what if you could get 5 picks from him?
You could get more, but yeah, let's just start with five.
If you could
Five
get
picks and a young asset, like what we got for Shea. We got Shea back and 5 picks. I think that would be very acceptable. I think they could get a young asset that's a top 10 pick from the prior year that has incredible upside for Luca and 5 picks. I think it would be completely doable. And the thing is, it's so stupid about that is that they did that. They would have an actual opportunity to do some serious winning because a lot of their picks that they've traded to get other players are protected. So if they do end up sucking, they get to get those picks back.
you go all in on middle of the playoff play-in, you find yourselves in these spots and you got to find a way out of it. And for like the Lakers, there's really no good way out of it except for trade LeBron. Like if they end up being 8th seed again and like you can't get anything better than that with AD and LeBron,
Okay, all right.
then
My question is this: how much is it going to affect that LeBron James's son just had this situation on the court? Because if I'm not mistaken, this is probably going to put him out for an entire year of hoops, if not 6 months. If it puts you out that long, right, you're not going to get drafted the next year unless it's a second round draft pick from a team that's doing like, hey, I'm doing this for you, LeBron.
I don't know. I haven't
Bro,
even started
this is
thinking
what I'm
about that.
saying is like this is so beyond like everything that's happened in the last like 6 months of hoops, bro, makes you have to stop and wonder what the fuck's going on, right? Damian Lillard, dude, James Harden coming out and saying that
Oh my God.
Morey,
Moray. Daryl Moray.
Morey is a fucking liar, and I will
Liar.
never fucking play for
Never
him again,
play for an organization he
bro.
works for again.
This is what I'm telling you
And
about.
then he said, let me say that again. Daryl
Daryl,
Morey. And dude, honestly, I don't mean to be like whatever, but like it didn't seem like everybody there knew exactly what the fuck he was talking about. It was like a kids camp.
I
So it was
know.
just like he was saying it to the social media
I had to do
cameras.
so much research on what the fuck he was talking about. You know, I found out
What?
he was talking about there was a trade in place with the Clippers, and he pulled out of it. And he was just like, then he comes out and says, there will be no trade for James Harden. He will be playing for Philly next year. James Harden comes out within 24 hours and drops that nice little piece of amazing journalism from James. Fact. Write it in your books. I will never play for an organization. He doesn't say Philly, does he? And that's the key right there, is because now you're going to see what happens with everything else. Is it going to be enough to be able to get Daryl out?
No.
Okay. If it's not, then what just happened? Because now he's not worth the trade offer that Clippers were offering for him, because he's basically said he's not playing unless he gets traded, which doesn't always seem good for players, especially going to new teams like Damian Lillard.
Showdown, baby.
It is. Like,
We're gonna see. My assumption is this: James Harden will sit out. So what happens contractually since he opted in?
All right, so he has 30 days, right? The new CBA mentions that you have 30 days to play after sitting out. If you do not play, you are no longer allowed to sign with a new team until your last year of obligation is fulfilled.
So we're gonna see a new clause or a relatively new clause exercised potentially because
Potentially by
Harden is not
Daryl.
going to play.
All right, so if he doesn't play, then he has 30 days or a trade has to be done. Here's the thing.
If Moore just got like called a liar, he's not going to be like,
okay,
oh, let's
but
work
here's
this
the thing.
out.
This is going to be A, the death of Daryl, right? Or B, it's going to show how good he is, because if he can move past this, right, and trade him, right, and just say, I'm getting him out of Philly, he'll be safe. But if he doesn't and he sits on his ass and he doesn't do anything at all, then and he says, well, I'm going to make him pay, right? And he turns this into a pissing match in Philly, bro. This is going to go about as good. I'm telling you, this is going to go horrible. I mean, this is going to go like a Ben Simmons situation there for Daryl. And if that's what Daryl wants to do, is turn into the scapegoat there, then that's fine. But he knows that if he lets James Harden sit and not do anything, their team is going to suck worse. Because when he finally does make the trade, he's going to be able to get like 2 cents on the dollar. You know, and it's going to be like a couple role players instead of.
Do you think it drives his value down? Like Harden's worth less now? It's 1 year.
There's going to be a team that will pay for him, but there's a couple teams that were probably like, yeah. Listen, if Daryl wants to really fuck James Harden over, you know what he'll do? Send him to Houston.
I don't see Houston as having the assets that they need.
Doesn't matter at this point.
Kind of does. Like,
okay, but then my question to you is this: is that like you just signed some players, you can't trade them until December, right? You've got a couple young assets that, because you're new players that you just brought in, that are going to get bumped down to the bench, that their value is going to drop a little bit. Do you trade some of those guys before their value drops and a couple picks? Because this is the situation we're in, is that like he wants out of Philly and he doesn't give a crap anymore. And I think that's
Michael?
what Daryl wants him. Daryl wants him on his knees to be able to say, I don't care anymore. Just get me the crap out of a situation with you.
Michael said he did it with Melo, CP3, and Russ.
He's known for being a dick.
And
man.
he already did it once with Harden, if you think about it.
I know. But not just that, but if you think about it,
Or
he promised Harden
out of there by the time that happened. But for Cade, yeah, George, I bet they would love to do that, but I don't think he's going they're giving up Cade for Harden. That's the problem with Harden right now. Like, I can't think of a young up and coming player that you would want to give up for him.
Yeah, dude, Zion Williamson. Like, why not start over there?
Because Zion in 5 years could be great.
Could be, if he doesn't keep on getting injured.
Harden won't be in the league in 5 years. So that's why you don't do it.
All right, but who do you have on that team though?
Structure
that
right now,
team is ready to win though. That team is full of a bunch of guys that are 27 and above. You know,
see, I don't buy this Zion. Like, a lot of people are hating on him. They're like, "Oh, he should have played. He was doing like windmill dunks. He was ready to go." Like, I get what people are saying, but like imagine him on that team. Then they might even be a contender. So if he says he's not ready to go because like his back isn't quite right, he's doing all the things that he should be able to do without pain, and he's experiencing discomfort. I appreciate him not going to trade him out. Just be like, oh, we're done with him. Like I think
I get
they
it.
got to get him back. Like you got to like double down on number one picks, not like give up because they're not right. Like it's frustrating to me because Harden and Zion, like that should not be a conversation.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the situation that you're in. Is James Harden wants out, right? And you look at across the league and you're saying what other players could be in the situation where they're like, we'll take a little bit less for an opportunity to win now. Because if Zion in their mind and Pelicans warped mind, right, are thinking that Zion Williamson is not going to play 50 games this next year, that doesn't help you out. If they think in their mind, they're like, man, blah, 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 blah. He's not going to play 50 games. Then you're looking at a situation like this where you're like, okay, well, Damian Lillard, you know, James Harden. Like you're looking for a fill-in that will be able to put you guys in a winning situation right then, right now, because you have a good team that's
Dude,
27 and above.
I just don't like it when people say like people I don't know, like 72 games. I get that the NBA economic model is built on that and it's not going to change. But it's just too many games. Like people shouldn't be expected to play 72.
No,
And I get that 50 is too few because your team needs to build
it's
camaraderie and
isn't it 65 anyways that you have to play to be in?
something like
Yeah, it's
this.
65. So
It's crazy. And like
it's
and I
nuts,
get it.
man.
And I'm happy for them, the NBA, but like if that's going to be the model that they build based on the economic model, then you have to in return do what the Thunder have done. Number 1, build extraordinary depth. You got to rest players in games on regular intervals so that they're not being pushed to 40 minutes a night,
Sure.
even with overtime, right? Like you have to find
Okay,
ways to make
I got a
sure that
question.
yeah.
You take a team that's been built like this, right? The depth
Mhm.
that's been built, and it doesn't matter if it's young or not, and you insert them into the NFL, you insert them to the MLB, right? Do they get more respect because they're in a different league? Because I've seen MLB young teams get way more respect than the Thunder have. I've seen is it just because if it's a small market? Like I this is the one thing I struggle
Alright,
at
so
because I
let's
I
talk
see
about
all
like
this. Like
I don't want
people
to pick on our Thunder our like Thunder fandom or anything, but like honestly, if you're looking at another team and you're like, okay, they got to the finals, they had a bunch of young players, they had great talent, they had future MVPs, and they weren't able to put it together, and then they traded a bunch of those guys away. And if this
yeah.
was an MLB or NFL,
Yeah.
you would think that the team basically had the inability to get the job done. And I've seen a lot of people come at us with that about the Thunder.
Sure.
And I understand why you would approach it that way. But as you saw the same group, this team, come up with another group of young talent that had future All NBA players, current All NBA players, future potential MVPs, like the next generation of the league, you would think, unfortunately, that the future for this team was another fire sale.
Yeah.
That the you'd end up being like, okay, yeah, um, like the Seattle Marlins, Mariners. I'm sorry, Seattle Mariners had A Rod, Ken Griffey Jr., pitcher Randy Johnson.
Yep.
They had
A bunch of them
um,
too.
right,
It's
and then
insane.
it was like, get it done, and all those players ended up around the rest of the league. And so you would think maybe that this was the future for a team like the Thunder. But on the flip side of it, you'd have to like look at it and say, if they can get it done, if they can win a championship or two or three, then it really changes how you look at it. They no longer become like,
So at what point does it become a shock to the world that we win a championship? And what point does it become an obligation? Because to me, like this team is really proving that we've got something special rolled up our sleeves. Like this isn't just a normal season that you'd get sitting back getting used to watching. Like,
well,
like that's what I like. I keep saying if we're healthy and all of our players are healthy for 70 games, the majority of our good players are playing 70 games, right? what what can we expect? Because I go back to this enough where I keep saying to myself, like, I do think that this team is going to put out something that's going to be very impressive and scary. That people are going to be like, "Oh my god, what the hell just happened?" Because we've seen it happen in the NFL before. We've seen it happen in baseball before, where a team just is like, went from 70 wins to 100 wins or whatever. Like we've seen it happen before with young teams. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying I feel special about this team, and I've seen it happen in other sports where a young team flex their muscles, and we've seen it happen before in the NBA. So what makes it different from this team? Like, do we have the new up and coming young stars? Yes. Do we have a couple players that are veterans in the league? Yes. Do we have some big men that are willing to come off the bench and be very, very useful that would do it for any team in the league? Yes. Do we have some guards that are top of the line shooters? Yes. Do we have some guards that are top of the line drivers? Yes. Like what are we talking now? Like we saw for a flick last season in 40 wins, but I just feel like this is a 50 plus win game season. If that's the case, with the West being as thick as it could be, like what are we talking now? Are we talking about everybody looking at us in 9 months as the best team in the West? I
Fuck
mean,
yeah, baby. And if you feel how we feel, then yeah, we'll fuck with you guys. Put the NBA on notice. Sign up. We love you. Tell us what you think we're going to end up wanting 45 to 55.
50, 60.
60? Joel? Hell yeah.
Hell yes.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.